Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mindful of You podcast. This is episode 81, The Parable of the 10 Virgins. So this week we are talking about the Parable of the 10 Virgins, and I'm just going to start with reading the excerpt from the New Testament that describes this parable, and then we will go from there. My dog is in here squeaking her toy, and I can't control her, and so we're just going to let her squeak. If you hear squeaking, I'm sorry. So Matthew 25, verse 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegrooms tarried, and all slumbered and slept. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Oh, that was a struggle for me to read. I feel for my primary kids when I make them read scriptures. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about this parable because it was one that was always super important to me as a young woman growing up in the LDS faith. I even have a little lamp somewhere, I can't remember, that's carved out of wood to remind me of the lessons learned from this parable. I just want to talk about what I took from it and how we can apply this not just to our spiritual lives, but to our lives in general, and see where we go from there. So here is one of the lessons that I have that comes from this parable. So being prepared is an important life skill that will also help us feel more mentally stable. So I think what's interesting about this parable is, yes, it applies primarily to being prepared spiritually, but also just being prepared in general is so important. I think that when we arrive to an event or a situation in life unprepared, it can really throw us off. It's not good for our mental health to feel unprepared. That being said, it's also possible to over-prepare or, to think too anxiously about situations. But in general, we should do our best to make sure that we are ready for whatever we're doing or whatever we're going to, whether that be our work day, whether that be church, teaching a lesson, whatever you're doing. If you can make sure that you give it the time it deserves, that's going to help you. I think a lot of the reason people have things in life that they're not prepared for is because they feel like they don't have time or there's too much going on, and that's completely understandable. So do your best to make sure that you're giving the important things in life the time that they deserve. The oil we add to our lamps may not always be directly spiritual. It could be temporal things that allow us to have the bandwidth to engage in our lives more spiritually. So if you didn't follow that, what I mean is sometimes the oil we add to our lamps might be going to work. Sometimes the oil we add might be going to school. It might be changing our baby's diaper. It might be having a tough conversation with our spouse. It could be a myriad of things that don't seem directly spiritual. But when we have some of the temporal things sorted out, I think it helps us to be more aware spiritually. Now, as far as the priority and order those things should go in, that's something that's up to you. But I think that for me, it's similar to like cleaning the house on Saturday to be prepared for Sunday. It doesn't always happen in our house. But that's just an example of what I mean by doing temporal things to be more spiritually fulfilled. We have to work to live. We have to do very temporal and mundane things, as for the majority of our lives. And so I don't want you to see those things as not oil in your lamps, because it is, because it's getting you to the space where you are able to feel more of God's love and feel more of the Spirit. When we're prepared financially, when we're prepared, physically from working out, or if we're prepared mentally from learning in school and things like that, that's only going to help us be more aware of our spiritual needs and to follow Jesus Christ. The 5 prepared bridesmaids could not share their oil because spiritual readiness can't be shared. I think this is such an interesting concept, because the bridesmaids in the parable, sometimes when I was like a young woman, I would read it and be like, that's so mean. Like, why can't they share? Like, they forgot. It's okay, But I start to get it now, because this is just a symbol. This is just a parable, right? Even if you're like, oh, like they could hold the lamp together or something like that. This is a symbol for spiritual readiness, and that is something that can't be shared. So in the story, it can't be shared either. I think the main point of this parable is that we don't know when Christ is going to come. It could be early, it could be late, and so we're expected to always be prepared. Saying it like that to me sounds a little frightening, because it's like, oh, like I have to always be like, always, like that's kind of scary. But I also think it's comforting too, because it's like, I'm not going to have to last minute get everything in order for Christ coming if I'm living my life in a way that he would be proud of, and that he would see as, a humble servant of God and of him. And so, it's fixing / improving my lifestyle and my choices over time, in preparation for Christ coming, and trying to live my life in a way that he would be proud of. I think it sounds more scary to try and go, like in the parable, how they have to try and go to the stores at the last minute and get oil. That sounds scarier to me. I think it's better and less intimidating to just live life in a way that whenever Jesus Christ does come, I'm ready. I don't always feel ready, nor necessarily know what that means. I'm like, but there's so many things I do wrong. Like, I wish I could do better. And then it bugs me, and I'm like, crap, But I also think that the expectation is not perfection. It's striving. And hopefully we're striving at all times, or at most times, to be the best that we can be. But I think that God is going to be very forgiving. Despite in the parable, it sounds like he's not. I think it's just a symbol and a story. And as long as we're striving and trying, I think he will be understanding of us and always love us. Okay. The last one is, because we can't know when the bridegroom will come, it would be best to find a rhythm in our lives in which we are constantly striving to do our best and follow Christ. So I kind of jumped ahead in the last thing I shared, but I do think it's a good wrap up. We don't know when Christ will come, and so we have to learn to continually strive and improve our lives and improve ourselves. These episodes are really hard for me to record. I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little strained for words, because I never want anyone to feel like they're not enough, or like they should be doing, quote unquote more. But I also know it's important, because I know that as we strive to be better people, and as we strive to keep the commandments of God and to love Jesus Christ and to love our fellow neighbor, that does also help our mental health and our mental state. We just can't get to the point where we're, really beating ourselves up or feeling like we're never good enough. It's just that toxic stuff that sometimes comes into our heads. That's what we don't want. But the idea of general striving and general desire to be better and to be prepared for when Jesus Christ comes, that's all good. It's when we take it too far that it's not good. And so you have to learn to strike that balance of, striving, but not being perfectionistic or too harsh on yourself. It's really hard. But I think you can do it. So just do your best to remember that, like, Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ love you so much just as you are right now. But if we want to be prepared for the coming of Christ, we should continue to, love people, as I'm sure we're trying to, and to love God and make small improvements over time, day by day, adding a drop of oil to our lamps as we do that. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and I can't wait to talk to you next week about lessons from If. So I don't know if If is out anywhere right now. I saw it in theaters a little while ago, but if it is, try and watch it. It's such a great movie. Okay, talk to you next week. Bye-bye.